right, everyone, I apologize for the delay. We were working on some audio. We were working on getting the audio online for a presentation later. Now, before that happens, we'll call to order right now at 6:48, and we'll start at attendance. Aguilar, Allen, here. Appia, Baruco, Bennett, Bonaventura, Borelli, Castellano, Chacron, Curtis, Dennis, Durir, Gaffaru, Gibbs, Henkerd, Hoxa, Jane, Javidi, Javisetti, Carl, Clayson, Kukanda, Kowalski, Kundu, Lanza, Lavoy, McMillan, Michael, Murray, Nazaro, Nenadal, O'Connor, Von Olsen, Olje, Harry, Rajaraman, Rogalski, Schroeder, Sarek, Cisnowski, Zakar, Tumu, Villanueva, Villar, Martino, Bird, Valverde, Johnny, Tinkalu, Electricon, Gopal, Hinton, Johnson, Conrad, Crooks, Mirza, Sadani, Stern, Gaffer, Justice, Pack, Hernandez Jimenez, Zabrowski, all right. Thank you, everyone. We will now move into public comment. The first person for public comment will be Angela Rolla, and they have a presentation, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Angela Rolla. I'm the director of the Asian American Cultural Center. Along with me is...
my name is Kiana Cow. I'm a junior. I'm studying graphic design, and I'm part of the
So we're here to talk to you about the Together project. And I wanted to let you know about this in the hopes that USG will get behind this project that we will be launching next Wednesday, March 1st at the UConn Reads event with Ibu Patel. About a year and a half ago, some of the Cultural Center director received an email from Dr. Richard Brown, who is an emeritus faculty member in the Department of History. He had been working with 3 Muslim students, and together they had talked about the rise in Islamophobia in the United States, and wanted to create something that talked about the support of Muslims in light of what was going on in the United States. And so Floretta King, who is the former director of the Rainbow Center, and I met with them. And they likened it to the idea of how the GLBTQ community created the gay flag. So we know what the flag looks like, we know what that represents, and it is a symbol that is understandable and is universal. And so they were hoping that we could come up with something that really represented the support of the Muslim community. So what we did was we first went and asked for support from the administration, and we got the support from Dr. Wilson and Dr. Doherty. And then we turned the project over to our own students, meaning the students in the Design Center over the School of Fine Arts. So with Edvin Yeager, who is a professor over there and who heads up the Design Center, he turned it over to the students, and the students met with the original group who wanted to put this together. And so I'd like to show you what their concept, how they developed what we are now calling the Together Project. Yeah. It's only about 5 minutes.
This is the Design Center Together project. For our concept, we were addressing Muslim solidarity on the UConn campus. Our clients met with us facing this problem of discrimination, which we're defining as one group is marginalized and silenced by others. And then the reaction to that would be this solidarity, where the group strengthens itself in the face of discrimination. So dealing with those issues, we decided to take a sort of broader route to make it more of an inclusive message, and promoting this idea of togetherness, where groups are found to be alike and equal in their diversity. So coming from togetherness, that came to mind a lot of other words that we thought we could really use in the design. Alike, strength, unity, equality, whole. These are all ideas that we thought could really bring a positive message to be seen on campus. And so that we boiled down to this message of together. For our mark, we wanted something that would be fluid, applicable, multi-format, and most of all, inclusive. So we came up with these letter forms that would spell out together, but were themselves sort of interlocking parts that could be used in various, multiple ways. This is the initial explorations of the way that these letters could fit together in different arrangements. And then we finalized these three versions of a horizontal application, vertical, and then circular as well. For our message, we also wanted to go beyond the word mark itself and add some more meaning to it that brought together this idea of inclusion, identity, a collective understanding, empathy, and pride. So these are some of the messages we came up with, which sort of add a tagline to the Get Together, where we are unified and not alone, eye to eye, self-evident. And these would be inhabiting this sort of teardrop, speech bubble shape, which would then go along with the logos themselves. Our first and primary mean of deploying this idea would be through t-shirts, which would be given out for free at the UConn campus, and would be something that was for everyone, unifying and also multifaceted. It would be easily available and very much recognizable. So we wanted to choose these bright neon colors that would be very much noticeable and sort of have these moments where you could be wearing the shirt and then see someone sort of from a distance who has it. You might not know them, you're kind of connected in this idea. So these are some images of those t-shirts. For other collateral, we wanted something that would sort of keep pushing this message of being expressive, personal, easily distributable, but also on a small scale that could just be seen everywhere. Alec here came up with these designs for pins, and I'll let him talk to you about them.
So the best thing about pins is that they're easy to distribute, accessible, and can be applied to any surface, really. We took the idea of this teardrop with a phrase inside of it, which looks really well on this circular button, and really just ran with it. And we're looking forward to see what organizations choose to populate this bubble with. There are a lot of opportunities to create unique moments that connect to this bigger picture, but also define what a particular group who wants to leverage this system stands for. So that's just one of the many ways that we would support the market collaborative.
From there, we also experimented with some designs for tote bags, as well as hats, and really just pushing forward that idea that this market is something that can be really diverse and seen anywhere. We also had ideas for a print campaign in the form of posters that would be seen in public spaces around the campus and beyond, which would serve as kind of a teaser of information and spread awareness and as well as visibility for the campaign itself. So these were some designs for the posters, which come in 3 different color varieties that would be seen from a distance and easily recognizable, but at the same time sort of add something to the message that we see in the other collateral. Sam was the one to push forward our social media aspect of the project, so she'll explain that.
So to get the message out to a wider audience, we developed a variety of social media platforms that would keep the audience up to date and interconnected on this message of togetherness. So we looked at things such as building a website, an Instagram page, and a Facebook page. So the deployment process is the most important part of this whole program. So the certain ways that we can deploy this message is very important and important for
Sarah is going to explain just how we want to get this product deployed.
So we want this message to be available for everyone. So these are some of the deployment organizations and clubs on campus that can help spread this message. For instance, like student organizations that are like UCTV, SUBOG, and cultural centers, clubs, and Greek life organizations.
And that's all we have. So from everyone at the Together Project, we're all very excited to get started, and thanks so much for listening.
So Sarah, clearly, even though she didn't name USG, she meant USG. So where are we today? So it's interesting, I'm always excited when students come up with ideas because it is really the students. Why we're here is because of the students. This project is being supported now by the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, but it is not a diversity and inclusion project, okay? I want you to know that this is still very much a student idea, and it will continue to be a student project, and so that's where you come in. The reason that I'm here is only because the original design students were all in London, and Kiana and another student, Will, are now working on it. So I'm going to let Kiana let you know what's coming forth, and then I will just end with one more comment. Thank you.
Hello, so these are the shirts. We just got them today, and we're going to be launching them, the whole products, on March 1st when Ibu Patel is going to come for UConn Reads. And we need ambassadors. I want everyone to get the word out that we need ambassadors to support this movement and really represent everyone. So we're going to be launching social media campaigns, and we're going to be sharing GIFs and images like you saw on the board there. and I created a board in the Asian American Cultural Center where you can create your own messages. It's very interactive, and you might be featured in your own t-shirt, and if we decide that we're going to pick your message, then we might give out a free shirt, or you might become more involved in the project as well. Thank you.
So even though this began as looking at Muslim solidarity, and because it's taken us a while to get this off the ground and fruition, it's interesting now as we sit almost a year and a half later that it is not just Islamophobia that plagues our country. It is about anti-Semitism, it's about GLBTQ rights, it's about marginalized communities, it's about women, it's about almost everybody and everybody who has an identity in this room. And so the project is really touching all of our lives, but I think we are a better place at UConn because if we can come together, and we have chosen for the first iteration of this project 4 taglines, which is on there. We welcome, we unite, we grow, and we thrive. And I think there might be actually another iteration of we resist as well. So again, we are launching this next Wednesday. I don't know if you're going to have a Senate meeting next Wednesday in light of Ibu Patel coming. If you are not, and you would like to join us, we would love to have ambassadors at a table at the Jorgensen as we give out buttons and stickers to the people who are coming to the event. We're going to be very, very selective about how the t-shirts get distributed, because what we don't want is somebody wearing the t-shirt and have no idea why they're wearing the t-shirt, right? So if somebody goes, I mean, I'm sure you all know, but somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I like your t-shirt, where'd you get it? Oh, I don't know, I got it free, right? They were giving it out free. It really is a message that has to have an understanding to it. The students really who conceived of this really wanted to start a national movement. And so if we are going to do that, we have social media that we can use as our friend in this, but we also will be probably talking to lawyers about making sure that this is protected in the fact that nobody else can replicate it, that it is a UConn thing coming from UConn students. So thank you very much for your time, and if you'd like to get involved, if you can just, you can either, should I put Dan? Yes, please contact Dan, and then he will be in touch with me. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Angela and Kiana. Next for public comment is Casey Lambert.
So hey guys, if you don't know, my name is Casey Lambert. I represent UConn. I've talked to you a couple times before. But today I just wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the ban model legislation that is going to be up to be proposed tonight. And basically I want to come up here and talk to you a little bit why I care so much. I won't take too much of your time. I just wanted to give you some background about why this issue in particular, why bottled water, and why we should do something about it, in my opinion. So as you all probably are aware of this viral kind of fact, is that there's a patch in the Pacific Ocean that is twice the size of Texas. In that patch, it is plastic waste that is about 9 feet deep, and it consists of 7 million tons of waste. What these patches do, there's more than one, the Pacific one is the largest, but there's hundreds across the ocean. What they do is not only do they break down plastic and microdegrade it so that fish eat it, but also they block all the sunlight to the plant life below the ocean, which is actually where we get most of our oxygen supply from. It's not the rainforest, it's the ocean. So these plastic patches are actually suffocating plant life below it and suffocating our oxygen supply. So in America, we use 17 million barrels of oil a year to produce the plastic that goes into making disposable single-use plastic water bottles. That's enough to power 1.3 million cars for a year. And that is using oil, this fossil fuel material, to just make something that people use anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. And we don't think that's a good use of our fossil fuel supply. So there are, just to talk about why bottling water is actually a problem, not just from the plastic side, but from the water side. 3.1 billion gallons of water every year are bottled out of California. I'm sure you all know that they're in a severe drought. But contracts allow them to continue bottling water in a state where people have their tap shut off for halfway through the day, and that's unacceptable to me. In Connecticut alone, we are in a drought. 1.8 million gallons of water are bottled in the Bloomfield water plant every single day. That is water that is being taken out of municipal supplies. So also, bottled water is 19,000 times more expensive than tap water. If you bought bottled water, 1 gallon of bottled water from this university, that is going to cost you $11.70. Out of tap, that's going to cost you 0.004 cents. So it's actually not a smart thing for consumers, and we're selling water to people 3 times the cost of we sell gasoline to people. And I don't think that's a great thing for our consumers and a great thing for our students to have in front of them and market it to them. Also, bottled water is not cleaner than municipal water, especially in the Northeast. That is a big marketing lie. There has been, by independent studies, over 24,000 chemicals found in bottled water, including carcinogens and endocrine disruptors, which are harmful to children and pregnant women. So a lot of you say, like, well, I recycle them, it's not a problem. 50 million bottles are used approximately every year in America. Our recycling rate is 23%. In Connecticut, it's a little better, it's 24%. And it leads to 38 billion bottles being thrown out every single year. There are 38 billion bottles that are not being recycled. That's just kind of some facts surrounding bottled water. What this bill aims to do is to phase water bottles out of campus and start breaking the habit of use for students. A lot of you have probably concerns about, like, what are you going to do if you don't have water? We already have a system in place at the university where if you make a purchase at any cafe, let's say the Union or the cafes, you can get a cup of water for free. A lot of you may say, oh, but that's still plastic. The thing is, municipal supplies are always better to pull from because those are the supplies we add back into. When you buy bottled water, that is municipal water from somewhere or thousands of miles away from you, and we're not adding water back into those systems. So if you're getting water from Vermont, we're stealing water from Vermont, and it's not going back to Vermont, it's going into the Sound. So that's putting a lot of strain on farmers whose wells are going dry and have to spend thousands of dollars to actually dig deeper wells to keep their agriculture up, which is not fair. So what we will do to try to make this change happen, and what is outlined in the bill, is that we will phase them out of dining units and then eventually ban them on campus. But we also want to make it easier for students to make this change independently so that we don't have to actually put any cost on students to make this change reusable. We want to make sure that every single student coming into UConn has a water bottle given to them, either at orientation or in their first few weeks. So we don't actually have to put price or cost or convenience on the students. It will be something that the university does. And we will also make sure that people know that you can get a cup of water at any location on campus. So if you have people visiting or tour groups, they can still get water and get water given to them. So that's pretty much all I want to say. Besides the fact that banning plastic water bottles has actually been profitable for the 50 universities that have already switched to this. And when you free up space in the commissaries, that's room for more expensive items to go into. That's like all the water shakes or like pulverized coffee. That is more space for the commissaries and the dining services to put higher ticket items in there. And that's probably what students want anyway. If you pull a student and they're like, do you want water or this cool other product? They're going to say the cool other product because that just expands their options. Also, UConn, if you don't know, the Sierra Club rates universities every single year. We were 1 in 2013, we've dropped down to 9, and every university above us has already done this initiative. So that's all I want to say, and thank you. I'm sorry I had to take up so much of your time, but I hope you consider that when you vote on it.
Last week, so we don't have any minutes to approve, so we'll move into reports. Could student services, is there any? Okay. We'll move into the report of the president, President Byrd.
Good evening, everybody. I have a couple things. First, I'll leave this for Haley, but great job for everyone who came to Capitol Day. Big success. A couple things that I'm working on is we're leaving for Cosga Friday morning at 4 a.m. It's going to be a good time. So we're really excited for that. Rish and I have put together our presentation for Cosga. We're giving a presentation on open source textbooks and open educational resources. So that's really exciting. And actually, so we're actually bringing this book to show. This is the UConn chemistry textbook that USG funded last year. I finally have the hard copy, which is really exciting. So this book was written by a professor at UConn. USG paid $26,000 to publish it, and now 2,000 students this year used it, saving $600,000, which is really exciting. Schools all over the country are using this book, and this is the print version, so it's free online, and I think this print version is $55 at the bookstore, so that's really, really exciting. So I'll be bringing this to Texas to show everyone what's possible using student government money to save students now $1.2 million by the end of next year. So that's really exciting. Let's see. What else? A couple things. I submitted testimony in favor, I know External Affairs isn't working on this necessarily, but in favor of a bill that will get a polling location on campus for presidential elections, which is really exciting. Currently, as it stands, if you want to vote as a UConn student in Mansfield, you have to go off campus to the Mansfield Community Center. I've had too many students tell me that that's too inconvenient, they can't make it, they don't have time between classes. But if we had a polling station in the Union or in the field house, a lot more students would be able to participate, and I think that's really important. So I submitted testimony for the public hearing today for that. Lastly, you probably all got an email from Dean of Students, Dr. Doherty, and Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Gilbert, today about the Not Anymore program. This is a sexual assault comprehensive training that all students that have 54 credits must complete by, I think, September 10th. But you must complete it prior to your registration for classes for next semester. So please do that yourself. If you have 54 credits or more, you cannot sign up for classes next semester until you complete this. It's like a 45-minute program that goes kind of and brings up points that everyone went through sexual assault kind of basic training in orientation, but this is kind of like a booster shot to go in a little bit more in depth and also remind students of key concepts about sexual assault, stalking, things like that. So please complete that if you have 54 credits, and please share with your friends and your constituents that this is really, really important you do it. We don't want students trying to sign up for classes and being like, oh no, I have to do this thing that I knew about 5 weeks ago. So it's in your email, do it, it won't be that long, and it'll be very informational. That's my report, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Are there any questions for the President? All right, seeing none, we'll move into the report of the Vice President, Vice President Valverde.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I hope you all are having a great week. So for right now, we're going to take just the week off for LGL just because I know like midterms are going on and a lot of people reached out to me about like how it's a really stressful week. So we're going to just wait on that for a little bit. I'll probably send out the email for Sunday starting the second round. I am keeping a list of people who are meeting with their mentees. So if you're not doing it, just know I am taking note of that, and I will be calling in people who aren't doing it, because that's not fair to the mentees of this program. But shout out to the people who did do it. I got some really funny selfies. I got a really cool one from like Ben. I got a really awesome one from Erica and Ben. Where's Ben? Ben sent me a really good one too. So got some really good selfies, and we're gonna post them on Instagram. And then a little bit of an update on banquets. So the date that we had, even though not that many hands went up when I asked if you couldn't go, we decided to change the date just to make sure that everybody had the opportunity to attend. So it's going to be April 7th at Riverview. So just keep that date in mind. I'll definitely update everybody. And then just so you know, Jillian, the graphic designer, has been in the office. She's going to be there usually Mondays and Wednesdays from 12 to 3. So if you do need something, Haley today asked her for something, she got it done in an hour. So a really, really great way just to get anything that you need to get done for all the initiatives that you have this semester. And then, just so y'all know, I've been working with Franklin. I had a meeting with him last week about updating the website, and because of the graphic designer's experience with coding, we're going to be looking at different ways that we can be doing these things. So just definitely keep me updated on that. I'll definitely let all of you know any of the things that we're doing, but Jillian is hopefully going to be going to a workshop for that. And then lastly, I did meet with the Cultural Center directors last Thursday. We're going to be looking at collaborations in the future, but definitely the biggest thing is a diversity workshop. But because we are at this point in the semester, we're trying to find a time before we start doing transitioning into the new Senate and the new administration. So we're going to try and work something out. I'll let you all know what the deal with that is.
Thank you, Vice President Valverde. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll move into the report of the Comptroller, Comptroller Johnny.
Hey everyone. You will hear a lot more from me later on when I talk about the budget in terms of SFAC itself and the USG budget. So that's more to come. And also congratulations, Dylan. Dylan is my new deputy, and we will get working right after I get back from COSGA, because right now COSGA is taking over my life. But congratulations, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Comptroller Johnny. Are there any questions for the Comptroller? All right, seeing none, we'll move into the report of the Chiefs of Staff. Is there any report from the Chiefs of Staff? All right, seeing none, we'll move into the report of the... Oh, look. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm kind of sick, so I've been a little bit out of it. So yeah, I sent out an email that contained most of the announcements for this week. In that email, there are 2 links that contain a proposed new constitution for USG, as well as a proposed new set of bylaws for USG. The reason why these are being brought up now is the fact that we were looking at the bylaws and realized that there was something about the bylaws that hadn't been implemented from 2 or 3 years ago. And we did a cursory review and realized that, hey, there are a bunch of bylaws that have not been, even though they were voted on and passed in the Senate, not actually implemented into the bylaws. And our record keeping from the year 2014 is not nearly adequate. It's taking us a very long time and resource-intensive process to go back and find all the legislation that was passed, try and piece together if there were any amendments to that legislation, and et cetera, et cetera. So one of the ideas we're thinking about now is that instead of having to try and get in contact with people who graduated that year and are no longer at the university, which might take a long time to try and recover lost documents, to perhaps replace those governing documents in their entirety. I've personally been a big proponent of this since, well, I first looked at them. Because they are a complex set of documents that I don't think have been treated well over the years. There have been a lot of amendments to them, which don't necessarily take into account the document in its totality, but just one specific section. And as a result, the documents contradict themselves in several areas. For instance, in one area of the Constitution, it's stated that the Speaker will appoint the Nominations Committee, and the Nominations Committee shall consist of only senators. And in a few sections down, it says that the President shall nominate the Nominations Committee with whoever he chooses. Whoever the President chooses. So it's stuff like that, that self-contradictory stuff, and a lot of rules that were passed in the past that don't necessarily apply to us anymore. All of this leads me to believe that we should really look long and hard at revamping those governing documents, and I believe that replacing them is the way to go. So when you have time, look at those documents. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears were put into them, and let us know if you have any feedback. I believe everyone should be able to comment on it. If that's not the case, let me know, and then we'll work through that. Cool, and then all of the announcements, other announcements that were in the email still stand. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Cool. Chief Justice Stern.
Hello everyone, hope everyone's having a great week. Two things. So I'm waiting on a response from Kathy Cox for get a meeting with her for community standards to show our proposal. Hopefully she gets back to us soon. The second thing is that we are going to be starting a new initiative which is working on getting student representation on parking appeals, which is in the same vein as community standards. So we're going to get a proposal and try to see if we can get student representation on that. Hedy Hernandez, the Associate Justice, is the point person on that, so feel free to contact her or myself for additional information.
Thank you, Chief Justice Stern. Are there any questions? All right, so now we'll move into the report for the Academic Affairs Chair, Chairperson Doug Paul.
Hey everyone. So, what we did in ActFairs last week was we had the PERG members come in about the initiative they wanted to talk to us about at the Open Educational Resources Task Force. Was it 3 weeks ago? They came into ActFairs last Thursday, and we kind of hashed out details on how they wanted to move forward with this. And they said they were developing kind of a survey. They created their own subcommittee as to create a student survey to send out to the student body to find out how open educational resources have affected their academics here, if they've had a class with it, if their professor has mentioned it, that kind of thing, just to see how we should move forward. So they just sent that survey along, so that's what we'll be doing at ActFairs tomorrow. If anyone's interested in open source, open educational resources, feel free to drop by at 4. We're going to be going over that survey. And yeah, you'll be hearing a little more from me later on, but that's all.
Thank you, Chairperson Bill Paul. Is there any questions for the Chair? Seeing none, we'll move into the report of the External Affairs Committee. Chairperson,
Hi everyone. Okay, so like Dan said, big thank you to everyone who came for Capitol Day. It was a really, really great day. Things ran surprisingly smooth. We didn't have any major issues, and thank you for everyone again who came.
Along also with what Dan said, External Affairs actually did amend our legislative agenda to add the bill that Dan was talking about. I submitted testimony and I shared the email address to several people in my committee who also wanted to submit testimony, so I believe they did as well. So we're definitely in support of that, and that's the same thing like he explained, to get more polling places on campus. Also, there's a few dates if anyone's looking for some community service things that we're working on right now. March 4th, we're looking to do a cleanup. It's going to be from 11 to 1. We're not exactly sure where it's going to be yet, but it's definitely in the town of Mansfield. We looked at Hunting Lodge and a few places. We'll be clarifying that soon. But that's a nice, easy afternoon, obviously weather permitting. And the other date, which we're really, really excited about, Andrew Galski's doing a great job. We finally have a date for our computer help where we named it HAT, Husky's Advancing Technology. Irma talked earlier about Jill, the graphic designer who made flyers. They are awesome. I was just looking at them. She gave me like 5 different copies, so those will be out really, really soon. We will be doing that, the first one, on March 8th from 1:30 to 3, is that correct? Okay, 1:30 to 3. If anyone's interested in helping, please let me know. We're just helping do basic things, Facebook, email, Google Chrome, that kind of stuff. And we talked today about doing stuff like on the phone, like adding apps, that stuff. My mom doesn't know how to do that stuff. So if anyone wants to help, please let me know. We can carpool and things to the community center. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson Hinton. Are there any questions for External? Senator Baruka?
March 4th?
Yes. It's probably going to be outside the union because it's a Saturday, and we'll have more details. If we pick a place that's really close to campus, we'll just meet there, but we'll decide. I'm sure probably Friday at our meeting.
Are there any additional questions for the External Affairs Chair? All right, seeing none, we'll move into the report of the Programs Chair. Director Mirza.
Brought notes, so I won't forget this time. Yeah. So I was going to focus on USG stuff. So, a few things that I've been dealing with is, as many of you know, the New York Times programs run out of the SOC, programs kind of oversees that whole contract, and recently they reached out to me and said that, they're just going to increase per paper price from 70 cents to $1. So that's a pretty big price increase that, we have to work out with the New York Times because, it's pretty unacceptable that they can just drop a price increase of 30 cents per paper on us. So that's something me and Comptroller Johnny are working on in terms of negotiating a deal and seeing how we can keep the budget the same while also potentially taking this price increase hit. So more information on that later. Me and Marissa, we met with Kristen Carr on Friday to discuss with her about the Tier 2 inventory system I was trying to run at the SOC. So we just sent out a survey to all Tier 2 organization executive boards to get their ideas of what they want a rental system on the SOC to look like. So we're going to reconvene on Friday, look at those responses, and see how we're going to tackle the inventory system, thanks to also the help of Ben and Jacob. Thanks to the help of Malou and Lauren, we're holding a stress event at the SOC not this Thursday, next Thursday, from 2 to 5. We have a bunch of giveaways. We're going to give packets with bubble wrap, SOC, or programs oversight committee, stress balls, adult coloring books. Hopefully we'll have some therapy dogs there. We're looking at having kind bars there, possibly express, insomnia cookies. So that's an easy event to come and get points towards spring banquet for, and just get some midterms, get some stuff to relieve the stress. And finally, this is just like more personal, so it's going to have to come through Senate. We'll have to amend the POC bylaws to add in the structure of this inventory system into the POC bylaws. So when I amend that, that's going to come through here, and we'll need Senate approval.
Thank you, Director Gaza. Are there any questions for the Programs Oversight Committee? All right, so now we'll move into the report of student development. Chairperson Chris.
So we're basically just finishing up final details for our Women Career Panel next Thursday as well. We're in Austin 108 from 6 to 8 p.m., so come out and hear that. There should be a Facebook page coming out soon, so like it, share it, follow your friends. I had a meeting with the cultural centers this week to talk about Cultural Center Open House, so we're starting planning for that with what they envision the event looking like, so we're continuing with that. Founders Day is almost in its final stages of planning. We're reaching out to different tier 3s to see if they want to have the tables to present their history throughout the university, and USG will have a table as well. We also reached out to the Jonathan mascot and the dance teams about coming as well. And for Let Them Eat Cake, we're also continuing planning, so that's it.
Thank you, Chairperson Crooks. Are there any questions for the student development? Sure. All right. We'll move into the report of the Funding Board. Chairperson Johnson.
Hello everyone, I hope everyone's having a good week and surviving midterms. Not too much to report from the funding board, it's pretty much the same old, we are now, after, scary to think about, but after spring break, we're almost like 6 weeks till finals week. Yeah, don't freak out anyone. But, so funding board is now working on closing down spring semester funding, and hoping to have that ready to close either right before spring break or right after spring break. That way we can enjoy spring break. And then we also need to focus on gearing up for fall 2017 funding. So we are now working towards dealing with the officer changeover that is happening in Tier 2 organizations, which involves more funding workshops happening in April and the planning of those, as well as thinking about ahead to fall informational budgets and thinking about the system for the fall 2017 semester. So other than that, plugging along just as usual.
Thank you, Chairperson Johnson. Are there any questions for the funding board? All right, seeing none. We are done with reports and we'll move into old business. Item A of old business is a Senate resolution regarding the Elections Oversight Committee. If any of you remember from the last meeting, this is the one where we unfortunately forgot to poor Joy. Can I have a motion to consider this? Bonaventura and second to Baruco. All right. I'm just remembering this right now that I was the one who sponsored it, so here, show it here.
Right, so George, you saw the motion, or no? No, you don't have the motion. That's all right. So the motion. Okay, so we have a motion in a second. All right, great. So George, you should have 10 minutes to speak. 10 minutes. Are you presenting this or not?
Sure. Sorry, again, I'm sick and I'm kind of really out of it. So 2 weeks ago we moved to reconsider the legislation in its entirety, and then after we were reconsidering it, while we were reconsidering it, we voted to separate the question, separate out that last therefore be resolved clause, and then postpone the consideration of that clause to this week's meeting. I'm here to present that clause back before you again. It is the nomination of Joyce Go to the Elections Oversight Committee. We've checked the policies. There's nothing barring her from sitting on the Elections Oversight Committee. I fully believe that she is a qualified member to join the EOC, and at least in my experience working with her, I know that Joy is extremely hardworking. She, as many of you know, is also very neutral. But again, she is one of the hardest working people I've known in my time here at USG, so I really do hope that you accept this nomination. And Senate leadership this year wouldn't be complete if it weren't for her help. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you, Speaker Wing. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Just one. All right, the motion clearly passes. I'll give the chair back to George.
Should look at a different paragraph right there. Jeez. All right, so we'll now move into new business, seeing as there's no more old business. New business item A is the nomination of Nathan Baxter to the Veterans Ex Officio seat. That nomination is by President Byrd. Is there a motion to consider? Nenadal and then Olje for the second.
May I say quickly?
Yes, you may, President Byrd.
Hello everyone again. So yes, I'd like to formally nominate Nathan Baxter to the Veterans Ex Officio seat. I did receive a letter of recommendation from the director of the Veterans Oasis Center, which is one of the requirements. And he actually came to Capitol Day last week, was very active there, really great conversations with him, really nice guy, so seemed very interested. And so I thank you again for your interest in participating in USG. We thank you for your service as well. So I'd like to nominate Nathan to this position.
Mr. Baxter, if you will please stand. Hi.
Hey everyone. I'm Nathan Baxter. I look forward to being able to represent the VSL veterans of this campus and all the other campuses within the area, as this position was created last semester. As you guys probably are aware, because it's put up in legislation here, so this will be an experience for me and everybody else here. In this position, I wish to serve the student body for when in service we serve the people of this nation, and to continue to do this even when voluntarily separated. Our patriotism to the betterment of the people never dwindles, even when out of service. So I hope you do a good job. Thank you.
All right, seeing none, we'll move into, or is there any discussion regarding the nomination? All right, seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed will say nay. Abstentions? Abstention by the chair. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Thank you and congratulations, Mr. Baxter. We'll now move into item B, which is the nomination of Elijah. I'm sorry.
How do you say it? Ratsamore?
Ratsamore to the Rainbow Center's ex officio seat. Can we have a motion? That is going to move, and I think I saw a second by O'Connor first. All right. President Byrd.
Yes, so I would like to nominate Elijah formally, and thank you again for your interest in participating in USG. We really appreciate that. I've heard such great things. Very active in the Rainbow Center, very smart student. I heard you're a pharmacy student. Good luck. But again, very active in the Rainbow Center, so I'm sure you will all vote yes on his nomination, so please do.
Will the nominee please rise? Hello. Are there any questions for the nominee? All right, seeing none, is there any discussion regarding the nomination? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed will say nay. Abstentions? Abstention by the chair. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. All right, we'll now move into item C, a joint resolution regarding a university-wide ban on plastic single-use water bottles. Before we actually go to the motion and seconding for that, I'd just like to clarify to the now confirmed appointees to those ex officio seats, you now have speaking rights in this body. So at any time, if you would like to say anything on any issue, please feel free to do so. Usually you do that by just raising your placard. I'll see you, and if there's a line before you, I'll add you to that list. If not, I'll call on you to speak. All right, so can I see a motion? Motion by O'Connor, second by Kowalski. Director Mirza cannot motion, unfortunately. All right. Senator, actually, my apologies, Senator Gothard, this is something that you had put forward, correct? And this is something that was passed by the Sustainability Subcommittee? All right, if that's the case, my apologies, we did need a motion in a second for that. Okay. But Senator Gothard, if you want to come up and speak on this item for 10 minutes, you have the option to do so.
Oh, to speak on it or like
Sorry, say that again? Both, whatever you want to do.
So a joint resolution regarding a university-wide ban on plastic single-use water bottles. Whereas it is a part of the university's mission to promote the health and well-being of citizens by enhancing the social, economic, cultural, and natural environments of the state and beyond. Whereas the university's environmental policy statement tasks the university with institutionalizing the best practices to improve its environmental performance. Whereas the University of Connecticut President Student Herbst recently released a 2020 vision for campus sustainability and climate leadership, a plan to continue efforts to establish the University of Connecticut as a leader in environmental stewardship. Whereas over 3,100 University of Connecticut students have signed the petition urging the university to go bottled water free. Whereas the University of Connecticut's BESB vending contract with Coca-Cola Bottling Company will be renewed June 2017. Whereas the Washington University in St. Louis modified its contract with Coca-Cola in 2009 to exclude bottled water, demonstrating that the same change is possible with the University of Connecticut's Coca-Cola contract. Whereas several peer institutions, including Northeastern, Brown, Harvard, Washington University, and St. Louis, and at least 58 other universities have implemented or are working towards a campus-wide single-use plastic water bottle ban. Whereas the sale of single-use plastic water bottles on UConn's campuses contributes negatively to our overall environmental impact, therefore be it resolved that the undergraduate student government supports that the University of Connecticut's administration take the immediate steps towards becoming a single-use plastic water bottle-free campus. Therefore, be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government supports the UConn community in investing in the expansion of drinking fountain infrastructure by retrofitting and increasing water fountain stations to at least one water filling station per main campus building and residency. Therefore, be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government encourages the elimination of the use of single-use plastic water bottles at university-hosted events, alumni or donor events, prospective student events, and student-run events by fall 2017. Therefore, be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government discourages the use of university funds to purchase or distribute single-use plastic water bottles on all campuses by the fall 2020. Therefore, be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government encourages the university to provide all incoming students with a reusable water bottle prior to or beginning at the implementation of the campus ban. Therefore, be it finally resolved that the undergraduate student government believes that the University of Connecticut has the ability and responsibility to be a leader in environmental stewardship and believes that becoming a single-use plastic water bottle-free campus will be a vital step in achieving this goal.
Is there any objection to me changing that last word to a period? All right. You still have, I believe, 6 minutes.
6 minutes? I think my counterpart, Casey, who helped me with this legislation and helped with the initiative in the first place and getting the student body aware of what's going on, and it seems like the student body is in favor of this. Sustainability and environmental accountability is something that's an integral part of UConn's, flavor, per se. That's not the right word. You know what I'm trying to say, I can't think. What? Yeah, our identity. So I think this is a really important step in ensuring that we keep our title as one of the environmental leaders. As Casey had said earlier, UConn used to be #1 on the Sierra Club's coolest list, and decreased 8 spots to the spot #9. And all the other colleges that are above us have already implemented this through their USG. So I thought this would be a really great initiative. I actually had no idea that Concord had decided to do this. It was perfect timing, especially in terms of the BESB vending contract that will be revised in June 2017. As the legislation said, Washington University in St. Louis already modified a similar contract with Coca-Cola to not include the use of single-use plastic bottles, and so did Northeastern. So it is very doable, it's a very feasible plan, and all the dates that are put in there are all put in there strategically so that the university can phase into this and that it can go through seamlessly. So if you have any questions, I guess we can go in discussion.
Would you like to entertain questions?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take some points of information. So Senator Bonaventura has a point of information for Senator Guthrie.
Quick question. Are the water bottles that are branded with UConn Huskies, is that part of the Coca-Cola contract? Or is that a separate bottling company?
The ones that are used at sporting events?
No, even the ones, like, if you go to the bookstore and stuff, they have, like, bottles that are branded UConn Huskies. Are those,
Yeah.
I think they're a separate bottle, right? They're not part of the, they are?
They are Coca-Cola, but the thing is, the BESB contract that we're talking about, that is included in the sporting contract with Coca-Cola. So those are also used at sporting events. So in terms of this legislation, that would include those.
President Byrd has a point of information.
So I think you may have just answered my question, but can you kind of clarify the different contracts? Because you're saying that we want to end single-use water bottles at events hosted by alumni, donor events, effective student events, or student-run events by 2017, and then all events and everything by 2020. Can you just talk about the difference and if is there 2 different contracts? Like what's the difference?
Yeah, there are 2 different contracts with Coca-Cola, but that clause is specifically talking for 2017. We don't want the university or any of those events listed to provide those things at those events. So in terms of allocation of university funds, that won't completely be able to happen until fall 2020 because of that contract, the BESB contract.
So maybe I'm just ignorant, but if this were to go through, let's say they revise the contract and they take out single-use water bottles, how would the university get single-use water bottles at events like this next semester? If it's being revised, if the contract is being revised over the summer,
yeah.
Right? So let's say it goes through with no single-use water bottles, how would they get single-use water bottles at events in fall 2017? Yeah, like they have an exclusive relationship with Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So I guess Am I confused?
We wouldn't have them at all. Like at those, like we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, okay. Never mind.
There's a point of information by Director Mirza.
So if this were to pass, what are the steps that are already taken, or what are the next steps in terms of communication with the administration, with Coca-Cola, what they're just like, will you pass legislation, will not be the process?
So it definitely is a possibility. We've already seen the expansion of water bottle filling infrastructure on campus. USG actually helped fund some of those expansions last year and last semester. So in terms of, we hope to be in contact, and we're already in contact with other universities that have already put this in place, and expanding that infrastructure. We hope to work with administration and some people at the Office of Environmental Policy that are completely in support of this. So we hope to work with them.
Yes.
Can you say that?
Is there any communication or support from the administration right now?
When you talk about the administration, does that include the Office of Environmental Policy?
No, but maybe on board. Like people who make the decisions, or anyone in decision-making role.
There is a yield to Casey Lambert, and the chair accepts the yield.
So just to answer that question, we've reached out to the contract head, Kristen Allen. She hasn't gotten back to us, but I have personally reached out to orientation services, and we're in discussion about providing water bottles. There's kind of like a budget deal, but we are in discussion about that. We also are working on a plan to contact dining services and really work with them, because they will be the biggest ones hit. So we are working with them and trying to develop a plan to fill the spaces that would be empty by this policy if it were enacted. Also, I know my colleagues at the end of last semester did have a brief meeting with Susan Brooks about our MVP project, and they were not opposed to the idea. Again, it's just the logistics thing and making sure we have the grassroots support. We do now, as of yesterday, have over 3,500 petitions, and that number is going to continue to grow. And so as this is a grassroots effort by students, they are listening more and more. And they are willing to work with us and work with students as a collective friend.
There's a point of information by Senator Gibbs.
First of all, shout out to Casey and Senator Gathru for crafting this legislation. When it came to the Sustainability Committee, we basically just went through it once and said this is great. And to kind of follow up on Director Mears' question, in our last meeting, other than going through just the legislation and being what we would present to the Senate tonight, which we hope you will approve, we also are already discussing those next steps. And I think the Sustainability Subcommittee will continue to be a forum for us to reach out to other involved parties and continuing to implement it. A good example is last meeting, we were following up on our sustainability gen, and we met with the director of the General Education Oversight Committee. So,
Senator Gibbs, is this a question?
I'm not, I guess. No, I'm just addressing his point as well.
Unfortunately, Senator Gibbs, we were currently just entertaining points of information for Senator Guthrie. If you'd like to speak during the discussion, that'd be good.
Okay, but I think I got most of my point across a few minutes, so we're working.
President Byrd had a point of information.
I'm going to go here, sir.
So I don't think I was clear before. So the first therefore be resolved clause says you want to take immediate steps for becoming single-use plastic water bottle free campus. So that means you want the contract with Coca-Cola to be revised to remove that from the contract. The third therefore be resolved clause says you don't want single-use water bottles at these specific events for fall 2017. I guess my question is that redundant? Because if single-use water bottles are removed from the contract, there wouldn't be water bottles sold at those events.
Okay, hi. So just a little bit of the contract logistics and why there were those two dates there. The contract that is being negotiated in June, since the contract vendor head has kind of been ghosting us, we are having that buffer in, just in case we cannot alter the contract to the point of where we want it to be. It gets renewed every 3 years, so by fall 2020 we have that buffer in. So hopefully we can take the immediate steps, and if the contract for some reason cannot be altered this term around, they can make better steps to get it off the campus by 2020.
May I ask a quick follow-up? Yes. So let's say the contract doesn't go through as we want. We can still, is that third clause trying to still encourage the university not to sell single-use water bottles at those events regardless of what the contract says?
Yeah, so the contract mandates it's selling in certain locations, but we can reduce our use on campus anyway. So we can reduce them in dining services and stop providing them at events without being in violation of it.
But for example, they would have to be sold to the union, they would have to be sold at sporting events, things like that.
And in like the vending machine.
Yes. Okay.
So the fall 2020 date, that would be when like the ban, if this was to go through and it was supposed to work all the way through, that's when like there would be no water bottles there. But since the contract is technically still going to be enacted, even if this is going through and we will have water bottles, this is just so that we won't have them.
Got it. Thank you.
Director Mirza has a point of information.
So we're talking about dining halls taking the biggest hit. Sorry, dining services. I'm just like, does Cafe Lou's fall under dining services? Because I don't think dining, okay.
So dining services encompasses anything that basically you can use points or cash on. So the Union Street Market falls under dining services. All the UC cafes falls under dining services. They're the ones who are the biggest distributors of plastic water bottles on campus, and people buy use them with points and money. We are planning on working with them to replace the plastic water bottle space that is actually present there with higher priced items that students would prefer to have anyway, and that would give them a bigger profit margin on each sale. So we really want to make sure that they don't actually have to hit via funding or revenue.
Thank you. Are there any further information? Senator Baruco.
Hi, so just a math in the third from last vehicle clause, did we just change the storage?
The third one? Oh.
Is there an objection to that?
And also, and just for your first whereas, I understand what you're saying. Do you think, I just think it would look better for the legislation to read more nicely if we say something like, I don't know, I'm proposing an amendment, maybe, I want to see how you feel, saying it's part of the university mission statement. The university mission statement aims to, and then the quote, aims, and then the quote sentence. So rather than having the parentheses, we scratch the entire parentheses, because you already mentioned mission.
I put the parentheses because that's a direct quote. So, like, I'd have to put that there anyways.
Is that how it's supposed to go?
Yes, I believe so. All right, seeing no further points of information, thank you, Senator Goffard and Ms. Lambert. We'll now move into the rest of the discussion. Is there anyone who would like to be recognized for discussion? All right, seeing no more discussion on this item, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of passing a joint resolution regarding a university-wide ban on plastic single-use water bottles will say aye. Aye. All those opposed will say nay. Abstentions? Abstention from the chair. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Into item D of new business, the spring 2017 budget. Can we have a motion?
We had our USG SBAC hearing. I've been talking about it for a while. It's a Student Fee Advisory Committee hearing that looks at our expenses and our revenues over the past year. And we are supposed to give them a projection for the next 2 years. 2 years, till FY19. We are supposed to project to them where we are spending our money and how much that money, what our net is at the end of the year, right? So, in the past, USG has had so much money in the sense that we weren't spending enough, that over the past few years that I've been in USG, there's been a constant push to spend more, get through those reserves. You don't want money lying around. Even in, the business world, companies don't sit on money. We didn't want to do that either. So there's been this constant push over the past few years to spend our money as much as possible, which meant increasing the amount student groups get. When the seniors here were freshmen, the percentages that were given out to student groups were not 175. They were 165 and 60. So we decided as an organization a few years ago that we want to increase the percentage that we give student groups to get through our reserves. And we did that successfully. We pushed our expenditures, especially to the student groups, and we pushed ourselves to be able to take on more initiatives and spend more money. Now we're getting to a point where we need to spend as much as we have coming in. We cannot keep pushing to spend as much as possible. So when we went to our SBAC hearing and we had a negative amount in our projections for FY18 and FY19, we were told that we need to go back and fix it. They said, find out where you're going to cut money over the next 2 years so that you don't end up in a deficit. So Dan and I were instructed to go back, and we have been working on that for the past few days, to find out where we are going to reduce money and expenditures. Because, again, like I said, we're not pushing to spend as much as possible. Now we're pushing to spend wisely and spend smart and spend money as best we can to the students based on the amount we have. Having said that, in the past, when committees have submitted a budget to the comptroller, it's basically like, spend as much as you can, as much as you need, and it's going to get approved. Unfortunately, this year, I didn't have the luxury or the privilege to just approve everything that I was given. The way I went about doing it, and this is something that I had explained at exec, the way I went about doing this is to try to keep every line item for the committees so that they're able to take on every initiative that they want, and that Senate sees that and approves funds, because you approve it by line item, approves funds for every initiative that groups want to take on. However, I had to reduce the amounts from many of those line items. So George, if you could go to the Excel sheet, if you go to the second tab for the breakdown. If you were here for the fall semester, you've seen this before. It's a breakdown of every line item that every committee wants to spend. It includes, if you scroll down, USG General, which includes the professional and staff wages, as well as committee dinners and everything. So all the breakdown is there. So what I tried to do was keep every initiative and take a little bit out from where I saw that I could. There's certain things that I can't. The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, those are programs that we have specifically to give out newspapers. We have contracts for those, kind of. And so that's not something that I felt that I could take out from. Funding board, based on what we spent, originally had been allocated $1 million. I saw that we could still cut that down to $800,000. Dan and I have been spending a lot of time with Don and Daria in the back office and on QuickBooks trying to figure out what percentage we're going to have to cut next year for funding groups. So next year it may not be 100%, 75%. And Dan put it very well at exec, President Bird put it very well at exec, that we can't have student groups taking hits but not take hits ourselves internally. It doesn't make sense. It's not financially responsible for us to do that. And so there are certain events that certain committee chairs had approached me about and said, we don't believe that we can take a cut here. But from what I experienced at SBAC, from looking at the budget for looking at the entire undergraduate student government budget for the next 2 years, I felt it best to present the budget as is and to cut the money on certain line items that I felt could be expendable. Therefore, the budget is as is, and I suggested that if committee chairs needed more money, that is something that they would bring up at Senate, because Senate does have the power to amend this budget.
Thank you, Comptroller Johnny. Do you have a...
It's not.
It's done. Do you have a sponsor for the next?
No, we will do that.
Oh, okay, sorry. If that's the case, anybody want to sponsor this real quick? I'll... All right, are there points of information for Comptroller? Mr. Byrd?
I just want to say one quick thing.
Questions? All right, Senator Gibbs, you have a point of information, I think?
Yeah. I was just wondering, say we want to work, maybe go to the vote. Anyway, I don't want to make your job much harder than it has to be, because I can't imagine you working through all this. But I also don't have much of an understanding of finance, and I'm going to be surprised if a lot of other people don't as well.
Yeah,
so say we vote to increase individual line items. That doesn't, our total income isn't changing. So
No.
what would that money come from?
So we have enough money right now. We have enough money to add some to some line items, right? But like I said, we want to take a step towards being more conservative. So if we keep spending, if we keep, adding a little bit here and a little bit there, we're going to end up in a deficit next year.
Yeah.
For right now, as of this year, we're okay. As of this year, we have the money, and this number generally doesn't change. That's something I get from the business office, and it's about $16,500 every year. And so our revenue is about the same. What changes is our rollover. So what we have from year to year.
You want more?
We want to keep it either constant or be a little bit more conservative. We don't, our rollover amount, this 775 that you see, has been consistently decreasing. Last spring, it was around 800,000. And so if you keep spending more and more, the amount that rolls over into next year, so basically we had 800,000 coming into fall, right, 2016. So we were able to spend more because we had 800,000 extra dollars to spend. And now we're spending more and more, so that amount, that rollover amount is decreasing, which affects future years.
Great, and then you mentioned that we want to, I think our primary function is to fund all the student organizations on campus, and that goes through funding board, which you mentioned is 800,000 up there. What has that number been in years past?
We've kept it at 880, around 880 to 1 million. Last semester it was 1 million because groups were spending so much. Bringing it down to 800 will be, again, fine. The changes that I had mentioned will be implemented next semester. And we'll obviously make great efforts to communicate those changes with the groups. But the 800,000 will not affect any caps or cuts this semester itself.
So by voting to increase, say, certain committee event allocations, we won't be taking money from the student?
No, no.
All right, thank you for answering the question.
Senator Chu, do you have a question? All right.
One thing that I see as a mild concern is currently we're spending around $300,000 more than we take in every semester. And at that rate, next year our rollover will be negative, right? Because our student fee intake is $742,500, and our expenses are $1.1 million. So around $400,000 actually we take away from our rollover, right?
Yep.
And our rollover as of next semester will be roughly $200,000. So we'd be in the negative roughly $200,000. is there any plan to increase the revenue so that we don't have to take as much of a cut as we do?
That's a great question. First thing is that this is a budget projection. We generally don't spend 1.1 million. We will not hit all of these numbers, I promise you that. There are groups during the spring semester especially that run out of time. Seniors get tired and bored, and senioritis kicks in, and a lot of that stuff goes into effect, and we don't end up spending as much as we think. So your rollover, if we spent every dollar that we say we will, yes, we will be $200,000 short, right? And that's the problem. That's why I feel that we need to be more conservative. There's no way for us to bring in more revenue because our revenue comes from the $45 per student. We have among the highest, I believe, out of all the tier 3s. Oh, we have the highest among all the tier 3s for the amount we get out of the activity fee. 45, that's $90 a year. Other tier 3s have somewhere between $15. So there's no real way for us to increase that. The only way that we would be able to do that is to ask SBAC for more money, and it's a very tedious process, and I don't think we need to do that. I think if we cut back on our expenses and we're smarter about how we spend, we will be just fine.
Are there any other points of information? All right, so then we'll move into discussion. Thank you, Comptroller Johnny. Yes, notes. Chairperson Gopal. Yes.
You know, I have a lot to say when I bring notes up. I always wing it up here. Okay, cool. So I'm here to ask to bring ACAFAIR's budget back up to what it has been last semester, which means I need an extra $2,000 to do care packages this semester, and I'm going to explain why. So, the reason we're making all these cuts to committees' budgets, as explained by Comptroller Johnny, is something I'm 100% on board with. The projections for our spending, as I think Comptroller Johnny put it in exec, we've been trying to deplete our surplus by spending like this, and now it's time to cap like this, right? Something like that. A little more gracefully than me. But ACAFAIR spending has not been going like this the past few years, so I'm questioning why it is, or why $2,000 is being cut from my budget when I've actually been slashing the care package budget for my 3 semesters that I have been chair since the previous administration, or the previous chairperson. So Rich said that she was leaving these line items in to allow committees to continue doing their events while also spending less. But now I can't do this event. I really cannot put 1,500 care packages together with $10,000. I need that extra $2,000 as a buffer because prices do fluctuate a little bit, and we do always end up spending closer to $11,000. Again, that kind of also ties into what Rashida was saying about we will not hit all these numbers. I usually only spend about 11, but I need 12 just in case. So, long-standing commitment to being responsible. Oh, these notes are really long-winded. Basically, the point of cuts was to decrease extravagant spending, of which Academic Affairs has been doing none. I've been very meticulous with my budgeting for the last 3 semesters. I've thought out carefully where every dollar is going. Actually, can you open up the breakdown, please? Oh, it's right there. Perfect, cool. So, the $500 for the town hall event, this is actually interesting. Committee member came to us last week and brought up an info panel session idea, which kind of will address sensitive topics that are being discussed around campus and allow professors and students to hold informational panels purely from an academic perspective on pressing topics today, such as like immigration or rights when dealing with the police, that kind of thing. So that's all from a purely academic perspective. We want to try to just enlighten people as to what the rules actually are and what they can be. So that was brought up, and I thought it was a fantastic idea. And instead of allocating more money towards an event like that, I decided I'd strike the town hall that we were planning this semester and use the money towards this instead. Again, just shows that I don't want to keep adding money to this. I am willing to finagle my budget a little bit when things come up and I don't want to add more money. So something to keep in mind, that town hall is going to be replaced with an info panel kind of thing. I guess we could change the name too, but I mean, it doesn't really matter because the info panels are still technically town halls. Care packages cost less than ever before. George was saying how we haven't been the best record keepers in past years, so I kind of had to do a lot of digging through my old emails, the Academic Affairs account, but I was able to find monthly progress reports from 2015 where the total committee budget was $18,000. And as you can see, I've cleared about $6,000 out from like extravagant spending. Care packages as of March 2015 cost about 18 grand. And in the past, it was 15 grand. So it was 15 grand when the chair before me came in, then it was up to 18, and now I brought it down to 12 in an effort to be a little more responsible with the money. I really cannot afford to do 10. It's just not possible. Quality's gone up on these care packages. They're reusable bags. I don't know about you all, but I've seen them all around campus. I've seen them at the gym. I've seen freshmen using them to bring stuff to parties. I've seen USG everywhere, places where it shouldn't be even. But it's been great. Like our brand has been everywhere around campus, and the fact that they're reusable makes them a fantastic, not only help to the students, but also good for the organization. So I really don't think we should compromise on these specifically. With all that in mind, I don't have a vote in the Senate, so I do need 2 senators to motion to amend, and motion and second to make an amendment. Can I choose? Okay. Sorry, I would have chosen you all.
Senator Bonaventura, I saw your clock going. What are you, what is your motion? Your motion is to amend what specifically?
To add $2,000. Under the line item. Yeah, do you mind if I kind of speak for you and just move it? Cool. So the motion to amend and add $2,000 towards the line item finance care packages under the Academic Affairs Committee budget, right?
Yeah, I see this everywhere, so like,
all right, there is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I saw Senator Carl's about to go first. All right, there's a motion. Point of information for what is your point of information?
I was going to ask Rashida how this affected.
That can come after the things on the floor, right?
No, the point of information stands.
Councilor County, would this affect anything significant? Yes, no.
All right. Thank you, Chairperson Gopal. Senator Bonaventura, you have the floor for some time to go on.
What?
You have the floor if you'd like.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. President Byrd.
So I'm not here necessarily to debate Chairperson Gopal's general points, but I would like to clarify a couple of things. First, 2.5 weeks ago, Comptroller Johnny and I presented a budget to SVAC. In that budget, we projected 2 years out, or Comptroller Johnny did the work, I just was sitting next to her. But she projected if we keep spending the same, if spending stays flat, we foresee a $500,000 deficit in fiscal year 19. So it's not that we need to keep spending flat, as Senator Gopal said, it's that we actually do need to decrease spending. If we maintain the level of spending we've had the past 2 years, we will have a $500,000 deficit. Now, Comptroller Johnny and I have spent a lot of time today going through that budget, the presentation to SVAC, finding places we can cut. We've gotten back into a positive number for next fiscal year. We're still in a deficit for fiscal year 19. So we have to cut. The other thing is every committee was cut, with the exception of external affairs, because external affairs has the smallest budget. Really small budget, like $7,000. So everyone's going to have to take a cut. And I don't necessarily agree with the argument that care packages can't be done with $10,000. We don't have to do 1,500. We don't have to do the same number of items. And I'm not disagreeing that those are good things. If you want to give the committee $2,000, that's not really what I'm arguing. I'm arguing is that we need to change the culture of we have money, let's do it. That's not the culture we can have anymore. That's been the culture since my freshman year, because we needed to get rid of some of this money. And $2,000 may not sound like a lot of money, but if every week we start coming back and saying, oh, you know, I would really benefit from another $2,000, $3,000 for this gig, then we start, what did we cut? So $2,000 isn't going to kill us. We project a $200,000 surplus for this year. $2,000 isn't going to kill us, but we need to change the mindset that just because we have the money, we should spend it.
Thank you, President Byrd. Is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized for discussion on the amendment? Deputy Speaker Grindon.
This semester. Right, so just 2 points. So first of all, this will be the budget for this current semester of spring 2017. So that one of the things that means is that based on the funds that get approved, the committees themselves will have to carry out whatever they're doing based on these approved items. Now, if some items, for example, care package, which require a lot of planning, if they are no longer, for example, under the smaller budget, if they can no longer be successfully implemented, then that is an immediate problem for the committee itself. And maybe this is something we can definitely address in future budgets when the committee has much more time to prepare for these items. And that's completely fine because we definitely see how, actually, I don't need to speak into this mic, I just realized, I'm sorry.
I should actually be speaking in English. But I'll just say here, but basically what I'm trying to say is, this is a change that would affect the committee immediately if the committee cannot afford to spend $12,000 on care packages. We can absolutely use the cuts and address that in future changes, but immediately this will be a problem. And the second thing is that, well, while we are cutting a lot of the funding that is going to committees, as Chairperson Gopal mentioned, ACFAIRS has been a committee that has been actively pursuing budget cuts for the past few semesters, and if Comptroller Johnny feels that this, or believes that this is not a significant change, then I think we should be able to go through it with it this semester, but of course keep in mind that we need to make these cuts for future semesters. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Chairperson Gopal.
Cool, so just to respond to a couple of points. I agree 100%, this shouldn't be our culture. Spending shouldn't be our culture, especially now with all this projection. So that is something I 100% agree with, and it's the way I've been chairing and budgeting the committee for the last 3 semesters. So like, it's not like I'm saying we should be spending more on everything, we shouldn't be cutting anything. I'm just saying that this is something I feel that we just cannot cut. And I mean, agree to disagree on some things, I guess. But all other committees are taking a hit now, as President Byrd said. ACFAIRS has been taking hits for 3 semesters now. Like, I agree that since all other committees are lowering their budgets, ACFAIRS should also follow suit. But I'd also like to point out that this isn't just a one-off thing for ACFAIRS. Like, we have been spending less money consistently across the board over time. So I just don't see the need to do it again this semester. Especially, it's kind of like double cutting us now because I also lowered the budget again. But anyway, my spending has not stayed flat. Like, this whole model is, I guess, kind of wrong. I botched that. But my spending has not been flat, my spending has been down. And I agree, it's a culture thing, we shouldn't be spending, but I disagree with the slippery slope fallacy where it's like if we ask for 2,000 now, we're gonna ask for 2,000 next semester, then another 2,000. This is a one-off thing, this is an exception. We can talk more cuts next year if you want, but that's how it is for me.
Thank you, Chairperson Gopal. President Byrd.
So, just to respond to the slippery slope, this wouldn't be the first time I was told that I was wrong about the slippery slope argument. I've been told that I've been wrong about the slippery slope argument since my freshman year when I said we shouldn't be breaking funding policies in Senate to fund Tier 2 organizations because it leads to groups thinking we can break funding policies to fund Tier 2 organizations. And over 3 years of legislative funding, what happened? We saw it got to the point where we had to get rid of legislative funding because it opened up the floodgates of groups coming to USG to break funding policies for retroactive funding, going over the $12,000 cap, whatever. I'm usually not wrong about the slippery slope argument. Secondly, I think Chairperson Gopal has done an amazing job. So I don't want to talk poorly about a previous chairperson, but a previous chairperson spent too much, spent irresponsibly. It was not good. And Chairperson Gopal reined that in, spent much more responsibility, and actually got more for the care packages with less money. That's awesome. But to say that because a previous chair spent irresponsibly, that then I get to take, or that Chairperson Gopal gets to take responsibility for them cutting, it never should have gotten to that point. So, in a way, Aquifer's overspent, and you brought it back down to an equilibrium, and now we need to cut it. So that's just my view, is that, and in terms of spending flat, I meant for all of USG, not for individual committees. But for example, student services had a big cut this year. I think they cut, Comptroller Johnny cut $3,000 from one line item. I don't want that committee then coming back and saying, oh, well, Student Appreciation Day would be way more successful with that $3,000. And then have funding board say, well, let's not cut the percentages to groups because we can be way more successful if we don't cut. And of course we can be way more successful if we don't cut, but that's not the reality of the situation. And again, I'm not saying don't spend the extra $2,000. I'm just trying to get this idea going so that when I leave and when Comptroller Johnny leaves, we get this idea that we shouldn't be spending just because the committee says we need more money.
Thank you. Thank you, President Byrd. Is there any further discussion on this item? Senator Baruka. Sorry? Senator Baruka yields. Is there any further discussion on this item? Senator Tuer?
Do we need to amend everything that amendment has? So the totals at the bottom and then the total in the budget from the overall, we need to add those individually as well?
So just showing how that affects the
Just add, why don't you just change the actual cell so that the total at the bottom also changes? And if it
Is
doesn't
there a total at the bottom? Oh, this? No, that's not fair.
Does it change the overall? So it changed the overall total.
So if I...
No, change the care packages to 12,000.
Yeah.
And it should change everything. And if it doesn't pass, then just revert it back.
Okay. Cool. Is there any further discussion on this item? Chairperson Johnson.
I just need to get up here and speak on behalf of the student groups, and I certainly, I don't mean to say that my opinion and what I'm going to state is exactly what everyone and all the tier 2s agree, but I do feel it is necessary to say my best interests are for the tier 2 here. And $1 million might have been a little, last semester might have been a little, what's that word? Well, I guess it is on the amendment, I believe. So I just want to say though that my budget has been cut, and it's something definitely that funding board can absorb, but it's also something that the student groups have to absorb. And the student groups are usually best served by USG through the funding they receive through us. And if they have to be cut there, you know, there might have to be other hits somewhere as well. And I'm not advocating that I need an increased budget at all. I feel that I can effectively fund groups with my budget, and I do feel like we can effectively serve all the students through all our initiatives
with a decreased budget.
There's a point of order by the President. President Byrd, what is your point of order?
Not speaking, not germane to the amendment.
Chairperson Johnson, if I am understanding this correctly, you're implying the increase in the academic affairs budget to
The decreases in all budgets.
the decreases in all budgets, and you're saying that by increasing the academic affairs budget, how does funding board's budget?
I'm just saying that I guess like by increasing one budget, then I feel like how can we value one budget over the rest?
Point of information, funding board only spent $600,000 last spring. So technically, like, there's not
Point of information is the question. Well, the point of order is overruled, and the funding board chair can continue speaking time.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chairperson Johnson. Chairperson Goodall, how many times have you spoken on this? Twice. Technically, Senate rules restrict you from speaking, and I see a few other hands. If we go through it, you still want to speak, then we'll back to you. Senator Murray,
I'm just going to dial this back for a minute and actually talk about the Academic Affairs Committee. So, as Ben has said, care packages are essentially the lifeblood of the Academic Affairs Committee. It's the bulk of the budget, it's the bulk of the time spent, it's the bulk of the planning. It's pretty much the only thing that Academic Affairs does that really costs money. If you look at the other line items, they're spending $500 for a town hall, which is one town hall of the two that they wanted to do, another $500 for an outreach event, and then money for refreshments. So I don't think that the Academic Affairs Committee is necessarily spending out of control or anything like that. I think in general, some of the points that have been made are valid. We do need to cut back on our funding. We've had some previous attempts to try and decrease our rollover, but I think it is a good idea to have the buffer that we have. And while there should be cuts being made, I don't think this is the place to make them. It is $2,000, and as Comptroller Johnny has said, this probably won't really affect anything on its own. I do not think that this should be taken as a signal to anyone that this is a time to really go back and increase the budgets because we have that power. But I think that this is one area that is really important to the committee, and it is necessary for Academic Affairs to fulfill its function as a committee to have this money for their main event of the entire semester.
Thank you, Senator Murray. I saw Senator Barucho's
Motion for the previous question.
Senator Barucho has motion for the previous question. Is there a second to that motion? I believe Senator Tuner's written first. Motion for the previous question requires a 2/3 vote, so all those in favor of ending debate and moving the previous question will say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed will say nay. Abstentions, there's an abstention from the chair. The ayes have it, the motion passes. We'll now move into a vote on the amendment itself. All those in favor of amending the academic affairs budget so that it has $12,000 on the line item for care packages rather than $10,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, abstention from the chair. The ayes have it and the motion carries. The legislation is adopted. And we'll now move into discussion on the legislation and budget itself. Senator Gibbs.
I would like to motion for an amendment to line item under student services, please. Mentioned by Dan Berg, ironically anticipating this, but very similarly, our biggest outreach event as an organization is Student Appreciation Day. We speak on behalf of our constituents, and we have to show and demonstrate that we're working for them. And despite President Berg's concerns, I know that Comptroller Johnny is the one who's really looking at the numbers, and I trust her to be financially conservative. And when she says that we can spend $2,000 more on that, the student outreach event I think amending to add $2,000 to Student Appreciation Day is appropriate. So we'd like to raise it from the $12,000, which Dan already kindly mentioned was cut $3,000 from what we asked. But what I would like to mention is that in years past, we haven't had this debate. And I agree, as does everyone, that this debate should be had, and that we need to flat or go down. But in years past, we have simply, the chairs have presented their numbers to the comptroller, it's gone to Senate as one package, and it's gotten passed. There hasn't been cuts prior to what the chairs have said, and they can, in previous years, the chairs expect to give the money that they've requested. For that reason, in 2014, Student Appreciation Day was allocated $22,000, and the outreach from that event, from that $22,000, was upwards of 5,000 students. That is over a fourth of all of the student body. From there, trying to be conservative, we have reduced that number and have gone down to $15,000, or that's what we requested. So we requested a decrease from $22,000 to $15,000, expecting that we've done our part in terms of not just maintaining what we have in years past, and that decrease will affect the students that we're able to reach with our biggest outreach event of Student Appreciation Day. That being said, we've already taken our cut, and cutting another $3,000 is going to seriously affect our ability to carry out Student Appreciation Day and provide students with that service that we would like to.
Thank you, Senator Gibbs. Let me just clarify, you're motioning to amend the current number on Student Appreciation Day to
$14,000, which I'll point out is still less than we requested. So we're taking our cut, but it's just like very similar to, I mean, all the points that Ben and the other senators just made apply basically directly to this point as well, which I know is what Dan is worried about, and I understand that concern. But it's our main outreach event. We've already taken a cut from years past. We should start looking at ways potentially to increase our revenue or decrease our amount of spending. But based on Comptroller John E's response to, is this going to affect $2,000? No. So I believe Student Services also deserves $2,000.
All right, thank you, Senator Gibbs. There is a motion for an amendment. Is there a second? There is a second by Senator Villar. All right, we'll now move into discussion on the amendment. Comptroller Johnny. Yeah, sure. My mic's broken.
So, a few things. I'm just happening. A few things, okay? $2,000 is a drop in the bucket. We're all aware of that, right? $4,000 is a drop in the bucket. But you're cutting into the rollover that's going into next year, which means that you are setting yourself up for a small rollover next year, which means that I will be gone, but you will have to deal with that. This is the mentality that President Byrd was talking about, right? Every committee asked for $2,000. It's going to add up. And it's not going to affect me because I will not be here. It will affect all of you. Secondly, President Byrd and I are on the same page about the expenditures. We're on the same page about the budget and about the SNAC budget. We've walked through every line item together. We're completely well aware of every single expenditure, every single revenue item that we have. So everything that he says is based on, you know, the numbers that he knows and the numbers that he understands are the same ones that we do. Sure, $2,000. Like I just like don't know how to keep reiterating that $2,000 is a drop in the bucket. The other thing for this specific line item is that last semester, Student Services had asked, Student Services, right? I didn't miss that. Student Services had asked for $15,000 for spring weekend apparel. $15,000 were spent on t-shirts. Guess where they still are? They're still in 215. $15,000 on t-shirts. If they're being given away, I will close my eyes and fund that. But if they're sitting in they're sitting in 215 a year later, when we've had multiple events where we have given those t-shirts out, other committees have had to work to
Thank you, Comptroller Johnny and President Byrd. Well, mine is not working, so.
Okay, I'll grab that one.
Is this working? So the floor is getting a little slippery. I literally just made this argument that if one committee asks for money, it opens the door for another committee to ask for money. And not 2 seconds later did another committee come up and ask for $2,000 more. And like Comptroller Johnny said, sure, we have a $200,000 rollover, we can absorb $4,000 total. But that means that our total revenue for next fiscal year is lower. And when Comptroller Johnny and I project a deficit, every dollar of the rollover matters. Every dollar. So this means that next semester we're going to have to cut funding for Tier 2 organizations. But then we're going to say, but we didn't cut student services, we didn't cut ACT affairs. And sure, those funds, these are giveaways for students. I get that. These are direct student giveaways. But I don't feel that T-shirts are more valuable than sending a group to nationals or something like that. Secondly, I would like to reiterate Comptroller Johnny's point that when student services asked for $22,000, 70% of that, $15,000, went to T-shirts. And they didn't get given out. They didn't get given out. And even when we tried to give them out next semester, it ended up being Chairperson Mirza's committee that gave them out. It ended up being Public Relations that gave them out for filling out a survey for Comptroller Johnny. So student services spent $15,000 and everyone else spent time giving them out. You can't do it. I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking about vetoing a budget if you guys keep increasing all line items. It's like, I can't. And does I have one more point? No, but my last point would be that I look at the numbers, like Comptroller Johnny said. So I don't like people saying that I don't know what I'm talking about as another comptroller. Rich and I sit down and look at these numbers together. We spent 2 hours in the back office today with the bookkeepers trying to figure this out. So I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about.
Thank you, President Byrd. Senator Murray.
I'd like to make a point of information to the Student Services Chairperson.
The Student Services Chair is not here currently.
Right. All right. Senator Gibbs, are you speaking on her behalf?
I guess so.
If you were to be granted this extra $2,000, what specifically would that money go to?
Right. So, point of order. Oh, okay. What was the $2,000 going to?
What specifically would that extra $2,000 go to?
All right. I'm going to lump that in with a bit of a response because there were a couple points brought up that I think also apply to that. First of all, I didn't mean to insult you personally, Dan. I know you are very involved and work directly with Rish. I was not trying to say you are uneducated about it. I'm trying to say that Rish is educated about it. And then that was a response to Rish's previous argument when it was academic affairs speaking, saying, oh, we want $2,000. Is that going to affect it? And she simply said, no. And then I get up saying, oh, well, pretty much the exact same argument for Student Services Committee, and all of a sudden she got a little fiery, which I understand, and it's a matter of principle. But I'd like to address another point about the leftover T-shirts that was being referred to. We did over-order the number of extra larges, so there are a few boxes of extra larges still remaining, I believe. But that being said, those aren't the ones from when we had $22,000, and that might be part of the reason we reduced it from $22,000 to $15,000, now to $14,000. So that's a reduction of $8,000. So we're not getting $22,000 in shirts again. That being said, when it was $22,000, we reached 5,000 students. Those shirts are not being sitting in an office.
There's a point of personal privilege from the president.
So it wasn't extra larges left over. It was the date on the order was a week late.
This wasn't like we ordered too many actual orders and those were left over. The date on the purchase order was a week late, so they were delivered a week late. And they never got given out.
Yeah.
And that was when the budget was $2,000. Because $15,000 of that budget was t-shirts. The other money went to carabiners, which by the way are still in the office, and cuffs, which by the way are still in the office.
So this was for the spring last year.
Yes.
This is what you're referring to. All right, which is not the $22,000 year. That was already reduced. That being said, I still think that. So what he's saying is, it's not that we have these shirts and the students don't want them. It was an ordering mistake, and we don't need to point fingers at whose responsibility that was. But I know that all I know, and the reason I'm making this motion, is that I was sitting in the Student Services Committee last night, and we were ready to press submit on that order and start organizing to distribute those shirts. Anyone else who's in Student Services, and there are some of you, might not be a bad idea to come up and explain what we went through yesterday. We were ready to start carrying out our action to distribute those shirts that we had planned to order with our $15,000. And Eliza comes, guys, we have to completely change our plan because now we're getting cut $3,000. We already cut our budget from 22 to 15, but now we're getting cut $3,000 more. It's these sorts of last-minute changes and playing favorites within the executive committee that lead to these sorts of mistakes and shirts not getting distributed later on. It's not because the students don't demand their shirts, it's because of internal mistakes. Well, I guess that makes this a little bit easier. But I don't know why Dan's taking this so personally, because we just flew through.
Senator Gibbs, unfortunately, I cannot allow you to comment on the personal character of a member.
All right, but storming that's okay. Point being, we just flew through an amendment like that unanimously to add $2,000 on. It's a drop in the bucket. Rashida said in her own words, $4,000 a drop in the bucket, and yet we're getting this worked up and making it personal. I'm trying to vouch for the students. This is our main outreach event, and I just believe that we have the capacity and the ability within Student Services to distribute those and whatever leftover shirts are within it. So I hope to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gibbs. Unfortunately, I think I've been skipping over Deputy Speaker Kundu several times, so my apologies.
Point of order. My question was never answered.
There was a point of order. The point of information was never covered. Which, yeah, shirts. Thank you, Senator Gibbs.
So, just a few things that I wanted to clarify. The one thing that we, I guess, need to understand is that if we add $4,000 to the budget, that doesn't change the fact. That we will have that money. We will have that money to spend. It's not like we're going in the red for this semester. What that does change is how much money we'll have left to spend next semester. Now, the reason why I think we should approve this is because time is short. All these committees have planned their events around these funds, expecting this money to be available. Now they're being told about a third of the way through the semester that they will not have this money available. Now I can understand that that can raise a lot of problems for the committee and for reorganizing their budget or their event itself. So in light of that, I feel that it is reasonable for us to approve these smaller amounts in comparison to the larger budget, to approve these amounts for this semester. However, we as an organization need to be cognizant of the fact that we can't keep the similar budget amounts for next semesters, but we can keep that in mind while we plan these events for the next semester. It's not like just because we spend a certain amount of money this semester, we have to spend that next semester. I mean, these go into the records, and this is something we can address. And we as an organization, the people who are appointed to the chairs of the executive committees, will be people who are responsible people who will be able to run the organization in the way it needs to be run. So I believe you should not be worried about a slippery slope. You know, it doesn't apply for future semesters. We will know that we won't have the money, so we will have to spend less. But now we can't exactly do that as easily as for semesters that come after this, because we don't have the time, or these committees don't have the time, to plan these events around them. It would be much easier to continue as we are doing, and for future semesters, plan around the small amount of money we'll have left. $2,000 is not a significant change to the budget in terms of all the rest of the funds that we are approving. That's why I believe this should be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Kudu. I believe Comptroller Johnny had her.
Point of order.
Comptroller Johnny had her plaque up also.
I think people are starting to get this idea that me and President Byrd are not vouching for the students. Spending more, it sounds like it's vouching for the students. I'm vouching for the students next year, who will be hurt if we do. And so spending now benefits the students immediately, but remember that you're cutting into the rollover. The way we projected it right now is that we will spend more than we have because we have a certain rollover amount left, right? So we projected that we want to keep spending maybe a little bit less than we are right now, but that's okay because we will spend a little bit less. It's still more than we're getting, but that's okay because we have this rollover. Spending now gives students an immediate benefit this semester, but it's hurting them next semester. So I am vouching for this. I'm vouching for the longevity of our programs to the students. It's not like I want to take money away from student services because I don't want to give things out. Students love that. So that was like my biggest thing about I feel like it's being interpreted that I'm trying to cut things and I'm not vouching for the students and this and that. I'm vouching for the longevity of our initiatives for the future years for the students. What's happening right now is let's spend right now, let's spend for this semester because it's a drop in the bucket. That means that the rollover is less, but we'll let next year deal with it. We have a smaller budget next year, let's let next year's exec board deal with it. And that's the same thing that Dan and I were told at SFAC. They said change the numbers, make the net positive, and let next year's board deal with it. That's not how this organization runs. We spent hours and hours on training how to transition our officers so that there's never a break in our leadership, right? We work on that. We work on training our leaders. We're not going to just spend now and let next year's officers and next year's leadership board worry about that cut now and rollover. That's not how we work as an organization. The other thing is, in terms of this specific line item, again, sure there was internal stuff. Mistakes happen, we're human, right? I know that. But what steps were taken after that? What steps? I did not see student services take significant steps after that to host events to be able to give those out. Where the shirts were given out most were the SOC events that were Director Hunz's initiative, which student services worked on giving them out. They're short, but the event was not student services. And the second most giveaway of those shirts after the initial after that initial SOC opening day was when I put out a survey for SFAC, had asked students to answer, and if they did, they could come in and grab a t-shirt. If I saw student services taking the steps, giving away the shirts, and making sure that they're not wasted in 215, then it would have been fine. But they're still there, and that's the issue. It's not that it was a mix-up, it's that nothing was done after the mix-up.
Thank you, Comptroller Johnny. Senator Toomer? I will wait to entertain that motion until Senator Toomer has spoken.
I want to echo a lot of the same points that Comptroller Johnny made. As a senator, it's easier for me to approve the $2,000 line item increase for academic affairs because that event was wildly successful. They gave out 1,500 care packages in 3 hours. So I know that the stewardship of that money, that the money is in good hands and the money will get used, right? But when I see a track record of student services where, the Student Appreciation Day t-shirts are still, they were given out at programs events, the Invite Time Speaker event, and the cups are still, they're still in the SOC, along with the care leaders. I see that that is not, that's not the stewardship of the money that I can't reasonably give them that money because I don't know that it's going to be spent. And I think that it is a good idea, instead of continuing to try and make our events as big as possible, to do trial runs, to start smaller and then gauging success get bigger, right? So the scale of Student Appreciation Day was too large last semester. And if we tone it back, we can purchase fewer items, we can make it a smaller event. And if that is successful, we see that that's a good place to spend our money. But right now, for me, it doesn't add up. Student Appreciation Day is not a place where I want to put $2,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tumu. Vice President Valverde. Actually, Senator Bonaventura, your motion will be entertained after the speakers, your place on the speakers list is reached. So, Vice President Valverde.
Actually, I'll talk a little bit. It'll be really quick. Okay, so this is awkward. It's in my talking job. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit because I was a chairperson last year. So I totally understand when you have to cut that money, it does play a role into how much you're going to give out to students. But we also need to realize the way that we advocate towards students isn't just by giving them things. So let's kind of look back a little bit because we keep saying, oh, we're giving away all these things, like it's our outreach. But there are ways to play with that. That means looking at cheaper options, looking at different vendors, trying to find places closer to the university itself so that you're not paying $300 in shipping. And it's also looking at the numbers too. Last year I had 3 events in one weekend. So that meant that every single event that I had to get significantly cut so that I wouldn't have a $60,000 budget. I still had $30,000 and I had 3 events in one weekend. What did I do with that? I made sure that even though I knew that at some of these events I'd have 1,000 people, I said no, I have to be smart about this. Let me get 500 shirts and a bunch of smaller items so that during the day, even when I run out of those big items, I'm still giving out those small things. I'm still connecting with students, right? Making those events actually something that you can connect with people. So let's stop using the excuse of, oh, but we're giving out these things because there's so many other ways to reach out to students. We shouldn't be using that as an excuse at all for the future, and because I've seen it myself as a chairperson, that you can see the budget, and also different events, you can save money that way too. So let's say you have the first event and you're going to save like $200, great, add those $200 to another event that you're going to have at another point this semester. There are ways to look at your budget and play around with it. There really are, and it's nothing against either of you. I've just seen that from the past, and whatever happens tonight, I just want you all to know that as chair people, we know that we are able to handle those changes in the budget.
Thank you, Vice President Valverde. President Byrd.
So, a couple things. One, I'm not taking this personally. 2, I know I'm getting really heated up here, but when I was a freshman, the president, Ed Corshane, used to beat his hand on the table till he bled. So, we're not there yet. But Comptroller Johnny and I have, we are one of 2 people elected by the entire student body of this organization. And we have a fiduciary responsibility not only to this organization and its finances, but to students and their finances. Students contribute $90 and we're responsible for that, Rich and I, and all of you. But the reason we argue for this is because we think it's in the best interest of our organization and the students. So we're not taking this personally, we don't have any vendetta against any chair or any committee, because all committees were cut. Lastly, I want to comment on Deputy Speaker Kundu's comment that we can afford it this semester and we'll just cut next semester. I can't wait until I come back to that first fall Senate when I'm a graduate and the budget is presented. I guarantee you someone will get up here and say, no, we can't afford to cut this line item. Look, we can save it for next semester. And then the next semester they say, no, we'll cut it the next semester because we have, $100,000 in rollover. So let's just keep pushing it because we can afford it at the moment, but we don't have any fiduciary responsibility to the future. And that's where I think the problem lies, is that we're saying, sure, I agree we can afford it at the moment, but everyone will make an argument next semester, and the semester after that, and the semester after that. And of course there'll be people who agree with that. And generally, the body is very likely to vote to fund things. So I think this body needs to take a stand and say, sure, we just sailed through student aquifers and gave them $2,000 more. I assume that was somewhat on the premise that we weren't on a slippery slope and that no other committee would ask for funds. That obviously didn't happen. But this line item, I mean, I wasn't in favor of the $2,000 for aquifers, but I think we need to take a stand and say at some point we have to stop and say we have a fiduciary responsibility not only to students now, but to students in the future. Because students will say, USG members will say, let's not cut every semester.
Thank you, President Byrd. Chairperson Gopal.
Okay, wish I had a podium for this. But basically, this whole slippery slope argument, like President Byrd said, has been addressed in the past. This used to be the greatest debate that USG ever had when it came to breaking funding policy, which this is not that, so that's a completely false equivalency. This is our budget, and now student groups asking for more money. So, to the slippery slope thing, that refers to when we fund groups and we start repeatedly breaking the rules in funding groups. Thank you. I think that slippery slope refers to when the money is actually spent, not hearing it. I think a committee asking for money, the Senate taking it on a case-by-case basis, approving that money, and then another committee going up doesn't imply any slippery slope. Now, if the Senate had maybe approved both of them or whatever, then you might have an argument there. But I think hearing it doesn't contribute to a slippery slope at all. I think it's your prerogative as a Senate to hear these things when they go up. And I have faith in the Senate to act on a case-by-case basis. Now, I'm not a senator, so I'm not arguing for or against this. I'm just addressing points that were made in debate earlier. I just want to remind everyone that academic affairs is not student services, because I keep hearing my committees being thrown around up here. So you should, again, treat them as two separate committees, which they are, and do what you feel is responsible and right with the money. I also just wanted to ask, since we're arguing like the principles of fiscal responsibility about the summer committee budget, and President Byrd, for transparency's sake, how much did you spend on the President's office over the summer?
Approximately $5,400, which was about $3,300 under budget.
Perfect. So about 10 grand was budgeted for that?
Well, no, approximately $8,800.
Right, okay, so about $8,800. I just wanted to put that information out there in case there was a question of principle as to where the money is going, whether it's being spent on us or student orgs. There is money being spent on us by people who would have you think otherwise.
Thank you, Chairperson Gopal. Senator Bonaventura. Senator Bonaventura moves to call the previous question. Is there a second for that motion? Second by O'Connor. This requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed will say nay. Any abstentions? An abstention from the chair. The ayes have it. The motion carries. We will now move into a vote on the amendment, which is to add $2,000 to the Student Appreciation Day line item. All those in favor of that amendment will say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay. Well, wait for me to make the call. An abstention from the chair. It is the opinion of the chair that the nays have it, but division has been called by a senator. Is that a call for division or a call for a roll call vote?
Roll call.
Roll call vote. There's a. This is a vote. Sorry. This, just to clarify, this is a vote for the amendment to add $2,000 to Student Appreciation Day. Senator Baruco has called for a roll call vote. Or division? Division. Okay. Senator Baruco has called for division. So all those in favor will say, will rise. Eight in favor. All those opposed will rise. 17 against, and an abstention from the chair. The nays have it, and the motion fails. All right, we're back to discussion on the budget itself. Is there any further discussion on the budget? All right, well, actually, you know what? The Senate budget was also cut, so I'd like to motion to. I'm just kidding. What were the things? Okay, there's been a point of order, and that point of order is well taken. We will now move into a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Abstentions? All right, an abstention from the chair. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. All right, we'll now move into discussion. Is there any discussion? We'll move into announcements. Are there any announcements? Senator Villar has an announcement. There.
Okay, hi everyone. This year I was fortunate enough to be appointed as the Afro-Line X chair for Oregon Line Agricultural Center. I'm so excited because our kickoff event is on Thursday. So tomorrow, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, Student Union Ballroom. So right here, it's a full ballroom, so there's plenty of room for everyone in this room. And we're having performances by several student organizations, slideshow about Afro-Line X, just like the breakdown, kind of what it is. And there's gonna be food. So if you guys are available to come, please come. I'll share the event on the USG Facebook page.
Is that on Thursday, sir?
Yes, tomorrow, 6 to 8, right here.
All right, Chairperson Nicole.
This Saturday is Asian Night. You should all go. Lots of awesome dance teams and cultural groups are going to be performing.
Lots of awesome dance teams.
Specifically, UC Thunder Us, the awesomest dance team on campus. I'm going to be hosting it, so if you want to see me make a fool of myself up on stage as an MC, come through. And I am the worst host ever because I don't even know what time it is. But buy your tickets ahead of time. 7:30, yeah. Buy your tickets ahead of time because they're $12 at jorgensen.uconn.edu, 20 at the door, so that's kind of steep. So buy them ahead. See you guys there.
Thank you, Chairperson Nicole. Comptroller Johnny. President Byrd.
Oh, I can shoot. A quick note for exec, our after-hours swipe access has expired, and I didn't know that till last night when I swiped in, and then this morning I got a text or an email saying, you're not allowed in the building. And I'm like, yeah. So we redid all the forms. We need all exec members to come in and sign them. So just stop by the office and sign them. They're in the area.
Thank you, President Byrd. I believe Senator Gibbs.
Well, at least we finally had an exciting Senate tonight, and the thing that I'm really passionate about passed tonight, so thank you for everyone who supported the ban the bottle legislation, and thank you, Senator Gadford, for drafting such wonderful legislation. We have these water bottles here, refillable, and they are ban the bottle campaign water bottles, which PERG has used their funds to provide. So go ahead on your way out, please grab one from that cardboard box out there and spread the word. Spread the word about what we're doing as USG, all right?
All right.
Have a great night, guys.
Comptroller Johnny.
Stay. Don't go yet.
Definitely go to Asian Night because UConn Thunder Us, the best team ever to performing. But more importantly, the debate tomorrow for elections is tomorrow, 6 to 9:30, North Lobby. It will be very exciting. There will be a lot of people there, and hopefully it'll be really, really productive. And I think it'll teach you a lot about if you want to run for positions in the future. I think it's super beneficial to go and do that. So make sure you try to make it happen.
Senator Oljay seconds that announcement. And Are there any other announcements? All right, seeing none. If there's no objection, we'll adjourn at 9:13.